Olá, boa tarde a todos. Hoje temos um hangout internacional com a Julie Borowski, espero que eu fale o sobrenome correto. A Julie é uma libertária americana que mora em Washington, D.C. e nós vamos conversar um pouco sobre o movimento liberal, libertário nos Estados Unidos e no Brasil e trocar algumas informações. Julie, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, great. So you live in Washington, D.C. It's a nice place to be a libertarian, right?
To be a libertarian, not so much. There's a lot of statists here, but I grew up in the area. I'm used to it.
Great. So how did you become a libertarian, or how you heard about the ideas, the libertarian ideas?
Sure, I guess kind of a long story short, I grew up a more conservative Republican in the United States, and I didn't know there were any other options between being a conservative right-winger and being a left-winger socialist. I didn't know there was anything in between. There was no other options. I was about 15 years old. I was in high school, and I was on the internet. I know Brazil is big on the internet, and I
Yeah.
love the internet. So I found the word libertarian on a forum online. I had never heard the word, had no idea what it meant, and I looked it up, and it basically said the people who want maximum freedom. And I thought, well, that's me, I'm pro-freedom. And I looked more into it, and at first some of the ideas were a little bit out there, like legalizing drugs and stuff like that. But then I thought more about it. I kept reading more about libertarianism, and I said, hey, this is actually what makes sense. I think these people are more consistent in their views because they want freedom and liberty across the board, not just in personal freedom, not just in economic freedom. They want freedom across the board. So that's how I became a libertarian, long story short.
So you were an early adopter.
I guess so, but when I was a kid, I was very, conservative, law and order, big government construction, honestly.
Great. I don't think you know it, but here in Brazil we have different meanings for the words. Like liberal word in
Yeah.
US is like left wing, right?
hmm
And here we still use liberal as the original meaning, and libertarians are more like anarcho-capitalists in
Okay.
Brazil. So most people mix these things up because
hmm
sometimes they read like a libertarian position in the US and it's actually a left-wing one.
Yeah.
Um, and let's talk a little bit about feminism. So did you have any problems with the left-wing feminists in the US or not? They really like you, or you have some problems like discussions all the time?
With left wingers, especially online, I get a lot of hate from them. But I try to keep it, polite, the discussion, because I think you can learn something from everyone.
Yeah.
I'm a libertarian, but at the same time, I don't have all the answers to everything. There's things that I don't know. There's still some things that I'm trying to figure out. I'm 26 years old. I believe I can learn stuff from other people, even if I don't think they're correct on an issue. Maybe they'll make me reconsider something that I had never really thought before. So I try to keep it polite, even though I do get a lot of hate, especially online, from what we call liberals in the United States, which is more socialist, left wingers. But I try to keep it cool.
Yeah, great. What about the feminists? Do they have some problems with you? What do they think about your positions? Because here the radical feminists, especially, they're really like they really discuss and make a lot of mess once in a while.
Uh, yeah, the feminists, a lot of them don't like me. It depends on what kind of feminist you're talking about, though. I know there's more libertarian feminists out
Yeah.
there. They make more sense to me, but I don't identify as feminist because I think the word is just so tainted at this point that when you say the word feminist, I think it turns off a lot of rational people. They say, "Whoa, I don't want to be associated with that." And I guess I'm the same way. I consider feminist to be, when I hear the word, I think about a big government person, someone who wants the state to control the lives of other people, and that's not what I want to be about.
Right. Actually, here in Brazil, the Congress just approved a law that makes murdering women. You have an increased. Come on, I hate when I forgot the word. You get more years in jail. So
Oh,
now, so now here, being a man is less worthwhile than being women, because now our lives is less worthy.
okay, so it's like a hate crime thing that if you kill a woman, you get more years in jail than if you kill a man.
Yeah, but like you cannot define it was hate because it was just killing because it was a woman, or because it was a passionate murder or something like this. But anyway, it was approved and the president just signed it. So now it's easier to kill a man like me than to kill a girl, for example.
Well, I think when you kill a person, it's automatically a hate crime because you don't kill someone's
Yeah,
name.
sure.
I
Well,
think,
I love you so much that they're gonna kill you.
I think, yeah, I think that's wrong. I think if you kill somebody, of course you should be punished for it, but I don't think if you kill a man, you should be less punished for it because it was a man, so therefore his life isn't as valued as much as a woman. I mean, that's ridiculous. I think it's become to the point where it's almost like women are above men in society, and I actually want equality. You know, feminists
Yeah.
always talk about equality. Well, I actually want real equality between the sexes. And you can't do that if you have women on a pedestal above everyone. I think it should be equal. I'm more so about individuality, though. I mean, that's awful, that law you just told me about. Man. Hmm.
Yeah, it happens. Actually, in Peru, I think last week they just approved a law too, that you can go like 12 years to jail if you talk with a girl in the streets and the girl don't like it. So you can go to
Oh,
jail just for that, like
catcalling.
whispering or something like this.
But I hear that's really bad in like South American countries. I took Spanish in high school, and I remember my Spanish teacher talking to me about that. Like, if you ever go to South America, like you're gonna get catcalled.
Nosotros podemos hablar en español si deseas, ¿no?
I've forgotten a lot. That's a free speech issue. I mean, you shouldn't be a jerk. You shouldn't say like nasty things to women just because you shouldn't. That's a jerk thing to do. But the same thing, I don't think you should be punished by the government for doing so. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and so difficult, especially here. I don't know in US, you can tell me more about it, but here it's very difficult for people to understand about freedom of speech.
Mhm.
Like we don't have that freedom of speech in our laws. Like it's allowed, but with many exceptions. And so people say, okay, you can have freedom of speech, but you cannot be a racist, or you cannot be a sexist. Come on, there's not freedom of speech.
That's not freedom of speech.
You need to have the freedom to be a jerk, to be an idiot.
Yeah, it's not really freedom of speech. Oh, if you can only say really nice things, you can only say compliments to people, that's not freedom of speech because there's no issue of doing that. Freedom of speech is to protect controversial speech. And, we're talking about racist, sexist, just nasty speech. Like, you shouldn't probably say that, but you shouldn't be punished for the government for having those opinions.
I think it's in US is easier to have freedom of speech compared to here, right? People understand that better or not.
I don't know because I've never been to Brazil, so I don't know exactly
But like
what.
for example, do you have people on the media or journals or newspapers or something saying that you need to condemn racists to go to jail or something like this?
Let's see. The government doesn't really um the government really doesn't punish you for your speech here. Like, I have a YouTube channel. I criticize the government openly online all the time, and I've never gotten a knock on my door. Maybe I'm on some kind of list. It's possible, but the government doesn't really censor you that much. I believe it's more. I do believe the America, United States, is moving to a more politically correct society, where it's not the government censoring you, but it's other people, it's your peers, it's a lot of a lot of it's on college campuses right now. Students getting banned for saying inappropriate things. I think that's more so in the United States, or PC culture. But freedom of speech we still have for the most part, which is a good thing. But who knows in the future?
Yeah, here if you were a racist, you go to jail.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Another question about guns. It's another issue we have in Brazil. I
Yeah.
know, I know it depends on the state. I believe that most American states allow you to buy a gun and hold a gun. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me more about guns in U.S. and the left wing lobby and the conservative lobby, even against and pro guns. How do they work?
Sure. In the United States, you can get a gun. There's different states have different laws regulating guns. Some states have background checks, some more strict, things like that. Some states ban certain types of guns. But for the most part, you can get a handgun in the United States pretty easily in most states. Conservatives, for the most part, are very pro-gun rights. They believe people should have the right to own a gun for home protection and just in case, in case stuff hits the fan, it's good to have a gun just in case. Liberals are torn on it. When I say liberals, I mean the left-wingers. A lot of them want gun control. I mean, we do have an issue of gun violence in the United States. I believe the media has probably blown it up more so than it actually is. But a lot of the left-wingers want the government to crack down on people owning guns. It's different to a different extent, though. Some want to ban guns, and some want more regulations of guns. So, I mean, there's some diversity there.
Right here, guns were almost banned for the normal people. Of course, for the criminals, they don't really respect the law. Huh?
No.
But here, and we even have a vote about guns, and most people voted to have a gun, to have the right to have a gun, and the government just pushed the law, making almost impossible to have a gun. So,
Oh my gosh.
and we are still fighting for the right to have a gun.
I hope you get lucky, and because I wouldn't know what to do without a gun. Like, I've never lived in a house without a gun. That's just so strange to me that you guys wouldn't have that freedom to have a gun. Because like you said, the criminals do not obey the law by definition. Like, that's
Yeah,
very scary.
that's why here we have like 6,000 murders per year.
Mhm.
It's even worse than Iraq's war, for example.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What about the libertarian movement in U.S.? How is it going? I know there's some libertarians in the, correct me if I'm wrong, there's some libertarians in the Tea Party, some libertarians in the Republican Party, some libertarians in the Libertarian Party, some libertarians who don't agree with being a party. How's the libertarian movement in the U.S.?
Well, the libertarian movement in the United States pretty much exploded with the Ron Paul campaign in 2008 and 2012. Ron Paul, I'm sure most of your viewers knew who Ron Paul is. He was a
Yeah,
Republican.
he was here last year, I think. Yeah, last year.
Oh yeah, he was. I saw the interview. Well, he was a Republican running for president, but he had libertarian views. He was very different than most Republicans that we have here, so he really attracted a great deal of support from libertarians and young people especially. Since 2012, the libertarian movement, I would say, has kind of splintered off somewhat. There's the Libertarian Party, like you said. Gary Johnson ran for president in 2012. I think he got a few percentage points. Some libertarians are in the Libertarian Party. Some are in the Republican Party. This is not to say the Republican Party is very libertarian friendly, because a lot of them are not. But they believe that we live in a two-party system. We have the Republicans and the Democrats. So they say, well, the Democrats are less friendlier to libertarians, so let's try to take over the Republican Party. There's been some success there. It's definitely an uphill battle. We have a few members of Congress who are pretty libertarian friendly on a lot of issues, which is good because we didn't have that a couple years ago. We just had Ron Paul. Now we have maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5. in Congress, which is good. Like you said, there's some that are anarcho-capitalist, the anarchists who don't want anything to do with politics, which is fine. That's their choice if they just want to do the more educational route. But I think libertarianism in the United States is definitely growing. I've been a libertarian, like I said, since I was 15, so 11 years ago. Back then, it was kind of lonely. No one knew what a libertarian was. But since the Ron Paul campaign, the past couple years, I think it's grown a lot where people are catching on. What about in Brazil?
Well, here we are growing too. It started with Facebook, actually. We have two parts of the moment. Like before Facebook, you had another social network called Orkut. I think most Americans don't know about it. It was made by Google, but it was actually used only for Brazilians and some other countries. And we have a part of the movement there at the beginning, but after the 2012, I think, it started to explode on Facebook thanks to Mises Institute, which it's an institute was created by Rothbard and some other guys in the U.S. And we have a branch here for 6 years, I think. And after Facebook, many things started to explode. We have many videos, many institutes. I run another institute in São Paulo too. But we don't have our Ron Paul yet. So we don't have too much cover in the media. But we're starting to get some coverage thanks to the protests. There was some libertarian phrases among the protesters, and it got some coverage. It started to show on the media, but we still never, I think 1 or 2 times we were on television, but most of the times on newspapers and some media who covers. But here in Brazil, most people don't understand even what is economic freedom. So we have to explain to them why do they need to pay less taxes, why getting your money in your pocket instead on the state is better. But we are growing fast. I think internet has an important part of it in Brazil.
Yeah. I was going to say, I told you earlier that Brazil is huge on my Facebook wall. Besides the United States, I have the most likes from Brazil. So even above like Canada, Australia, England, it's Brazil's the second. I get a lot of messages from people in Brazil. That's really cool to see.
Yeah, you should come here any year.
I hope so. That'd be great.
Yeah, great. What about Rand Paul? What do you think about Rand Paul, and why the libertarians in general think about him?
I like Rand Paul for the most part. I think a lot of libertarians are skeptical of Rand Paul because he's different from Ron Paul in some regards. Ron Paul is the more, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think about an issue. I don't care if you like it or not. I'm just going to tell the truth, and that's it. So that's Ron Paul's style, and I like Ron Paul's style. He always reminded me of my grandfather growing up. He would just tell it like it is. He didn't care. Rand Paul is more, he's a good politician, I'll say that. He'll try to kind of appease people, trying to get people more on his side. He'll say, hey, maybe we should consider this. He's more toned it down some, which I think both styles has their pros and cons to it. Rand Paul is good on a lot of issues like NSA spying, government spying on citizens, which is a problem here. He's good on criminal justice reform. He's called for reducing mandatory minimum sentencing, which is basically in the United States, if you get busted for hardcore drugs like cocaine, heroin, you have to go to jail for a certain period of time, like 5 years, 10 years, and so he's called out that. So he's good on a lot of these issues, more libertarian issues. He's okay on foreign policy. I know a lot of libertarians have been like, I don't know about this, because it is kind of hard to tell where he is on that issue. Sometimes he bounces back and forth, whereas Ron Paul, you knew where Ron Paul was on foreign policy. He would tell you, he would always relate everything back to foreign policy in the debate. So there's differences between Rand and Ron Paul. Some, it basically depends on your style, but I think Rand Paul is the most libertarian potential presidential candidate that we are going to get.
Yeah. But do you think it will he will actually be the candidate, or we'll have another Bush on the
Mm,
Republican part?
it's hard to say, but definitely Rand Paul is going to have an uphill battle. I know a lot of the more establishment Republicans are really coming after him and trying to dig up dirt within his staff, and basically they're kind of scared of Rand Paul at this point, which I think is probably a good sign that we may not have, hopefully, another Bush or Clinton in the White House. That would be terrible. I don't know though. I think it's definitely, even though, like I said, the libertarian movement is catching on. We still in America have our work cut out for us because there's still a lot of people who want the government goodies. So, I hope that I hope basically I don't want another Bush. If we could avoid that, that'd be great.
What about another Clinton?
Hillary Clinton. She's awful on pretty much every issue. I think a lot of people want her to be president because they want a first woman president in the United States. And I mean, I don't have any preferences between a man and a woman president because I actually care more about their policies. And Hillary Clinton is bad on foreign policy. She wants more war. She wants more domestic spying, and she's bad on healthcare, all these issues, education. Like she just wants the government to take over your lives, both personal and economic. So I think it would be really bad to have her as a president. And I hope more Americans look at her policies rather than her gender.
Do you think she's worse than Obama or not?
Mm, she might be worse than Obama because even there's hardcore left-wingers who are actually pretty good on foreign policy and domestic spying who have said that Hillary Clinton is an establishment candidate, that she's not really for the people. Obama's a bad president, but he could be worse. I hate to say that. He's he could be worse is what I'm trying to say, and I think Hillary might be even worse than him, which is very scary.
Yeah, here we have a very bad president. It's Dilma. It's a woman. And
Heard.
yeah, it's one of the reasons of the protests because Dilma was elected with a left-wing agenda. Like she's from the Workers' Party, so they always had a really socialist agenda, but they put it a little bit more center left to get the power. But she was elected with a center-left agenda, but had to start making some privatizations and starting cutting some subsidies because the money was over. Like Thatcher said, the money of all, the money of others always ends. So it just happened here. So people
Yeah.
are in the streets because the economic is it's really bad. We have like 7% inflation, and I think it's 12 or 13 the tax interest rate right now. So yeah, and it's really hard to open a business. It's really hard to close a business.
Mhm.
Uh, being a Brazilian entrepreneur, I'm a Brazilian entrepreneur, it's really difficult. So that's what we're trying to change. We are like 10 feet behind the US on many things,
Yeah.
especially on economic freedom. But another question was going to ask about drugs. I know, do you know more about the Colorado? How is it going? I've saw some numbers from there, like libertarians always say, like they had less murders, less robberies, got more taxes, more people selling drugs freely. What do you think about the drugs question in U.S.?
Yeah, a few states in the United States have legalized marijuana. I was in Colorado last year when it was legalized, and I just it was so strange for me to see because there was actually shops selling marijuana on the street. Like you would go in and they would ID you. I just went just to see what it was like, okay? Inside And it was so weird. It was very controlled. It was very peaceful. There was no gang fights, nothing like that, because it was just so controlled, and you could just buy, people were just buying it and leaving the store. It's been, it's been good. Like, crime in Colorado is down since they legalized marijuana. Um, there's basically been no problems. It's really good to see, and I think a lot more states are catching on. I think pretty soon the majority of states in the United States may legalize marijuana because they've seen it was kind of hard to be like the first state to do it, Colorado and Washington, but now we have Alaska, we have DC, so more states are catching on because I think even more conservative people are realizing that, you know, keeping marijuana illegal is expensive because the police officers have to enforce the law, and all these people are going to court, and some of them are going to jail, the drug dealers mostly, for marijuana. And I'm not saying marijuana is harmless. I wouldn't do it myself, but I'm just saying it just seems ridiculous that prohibition is probably worse than marijuana.
Yeah. Here we still have a drug war. Like
Mhm.
all drugs were banned, and even for medical reasons. So you cannot use marijuana for medical reasons. A Brazilian guy told me like last week that there are some doctors lobbying against legalizing recreational marijuana in U.S. because they use it for medical reasons. But
Yeah.
some people buy it to use it as recreational, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, here we cannot use it for medical reasons.
Yeah.
Last year it was approved in a regulation to make a little concession on this, but still ban it. But you don't go to jail if you have a small amount of drugs and the policy catches them. So if you have a small amount of marijuana or cocaine, you don't go to jail.
Hmm.
But we follow the U.S. Experiments with Colorado and the other states very carefully because that's one of the reasons, one of the biggest fights from the Brazilian libertarians with conservatives. It's
Yeah.
about drugs because here we have favelas, and in the favelas we really have gangs
Hmm.
controlling most of the favelas and making poor people suffer and get murdered for nothing for because of a
Yeah.
war. And here's I think is stronger than U.S. position.
Hmm.
Another issue that we usually fight with conservatives is gay marriage. How is this issue going on the U.S.?
More states are legalizing gay marriage. I don't exactly have the number of states right now, but it's a great deal of states have legalized gay marriage, and I think probably more so are going to legalize gay marriage. Myself, I kind of just want to get the government out of marriage. I don't think that's very practical right now in the United States. I think, though, it's kind of like gay marriage is coming to America. I, you know, it's what it is. What it is. I don't personally have anything against homosexuality. I don't see how it really affects my life if two
Yeah,
people or get married. I don't really have an opinion on that. Just, you know, as long as people are happy, then fine. Because I'm going to do what I want to do with my life. But yeah, I think gay marriage is definitely coming to America. It already has. It's going to expand more.
are you a minarchist or an anarcho-capitalist?
I don't like those labels. People ask me this question all the time. I don't like the word anarchist because I think it's very off-putting to most people. When they hear anarchist, they think of people who are violent on the street, like smashing windows, you know, anarchy, those kinds of people, and that's not what I want to put out because I believe I just use the word libertarian because I want to really expand libertarian beyond like the libertarian like bubble. So I want to reach, you know, regular average people who may not be that interested in politics, who just are living their life and they see things, they're like, I don't know if I like that, but they don't know that there's another option out there because they've never heard of libertarianism. And I think if we're in the corner talking about our books and, you know, all these kind of stuff, we're not going to reach the regular person. So if we come at someone and say, yeah, I'm an anarcho-capitalist, they're like, whoa.
Yeah.
What is that about? So I don't like that. I don't because I'm also a very practical person. Would I like to see a totally voluntary society where everything is voluntary and consensual between individuals? Yeah, sure. Let's try that out. Let's see if it works. But I don't know if I ever get to that point in my lifetime. So I'm kind of over here talking about libertarian things and just basically trying to get people on board and not turn them off, I guess would be the best answer to that.
Yeah, good answer. Uh, here we kind of have the same problem. Like we have many poor people, so we need first to explain them
Mhm.
why free market is important than everything. Myself, I believe in, like, I would be a narco-capitalist, but I think the best way of saying this to people is like, I defend a free market on everything. So I defend that the state don't have to do anything with gay marriage, with drugs, and even on law and policy. I think that people should have the option to hire a private police or something.
Yeah.
And if the state will continue or not, it depends on people. What if people want the state to continue? So I shouldn't be the one saying, okay, no, we need to end the state because I'm saying this one. I don't think this is very libertarian, I
Yeah.
think we should have the option to people to decide whatever they want and leave the monopoly of the state out of everything.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think people should have the option. It would be great if we could just have like a libertarian island somewhere and we could actually
Yeah.
try out our policies. But the problem then is the government is going to crack down on the island. Just if we could just be left alone, let's try it out, see if it works, and hopefully it does.
What about seasteading? Do you have any information about it?
I've heard of it. I'm not really involved in it though.
Ah, what a pity. It would be good to know more about it. I've heard about it like 1 or 2 years ago, but I didn't see any new improvements
I
about it.
haven't heard about it recently either, no.
One question that some guys asked me about Bitcoin. How's Bitcoin going in the US? More people are using, more people are knowing Bitcoin, or is not that known yet?
More people are using Bitcoin and have heard of it, I think. I think there's been some popular websites who have actually said you could use Bitcoin on this website. I think over the past year, though, I believe Bitcoin went down a lot over the past couple months.
Yeah, yeah.
I, I'm not that
Be-
much of a
be-
Bitcoin user.
because FBI cracked down Silk
Right.
Road and they had to sell the Bitcoins in the market, so the price went down.
Okay, I don't use Bitcoin that much, but I mean, I think it's cool to have an alternative. Um, More people are realizing what it is, but like I said, like I know it went down a lot, so maybe some people are being hesitant about it right now, saying, maybe I should have bought them years ago. I hear that a lot.
Yeah, great. What changed after Obama was elected? How for best and for worst? What do you think changed on the U.S.?
Since Obama's been elected, I mean, it's basically been a continuation from the Bush administration, which was bad too. I'm not a Bush fan. It's basically been a continuous steady climb of big government, so there's more government in our lives. I don't know if there's been that big of a change though. It's just more of the same, I would say. There's been more unemployment, more inflation. I think there's been more problems with the police, especially over the past year. I can't really think of anything that's been like huge developments. The wars have continued in the Middle East, probably more unstable than ever. Same old bailouts. I don't know if there's been that much change. He promised hope and change, but not really. It's just the same crap over and over.
Uh, Many people are starting to get used to some U.S. politics thanks to House of Cards here.
Oh.
There are many House of Cards fans in Brazil, so they started to know more information about Republican Party and Democratic Party and how it works. So more people are getting used to the U.S. Of course, House of Cards is fiction, but it's not
Yeah,
that fiction. Huh?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything you want to know about Brazil? I did all the questions I think I have.
About Brazil. I guess you've kind of already covered the protest. I did a little bit of research about it beforehand, just in case you asked me about it. All the corruption and the president
Yeah.
only has a 7% approval rating. I saw people are mad. But what percentage of the protesters do you think are libertarian?
1% or less.
So, okay.
But that's why we are trying to get more the information to people and make more libertarians go to the street because some libertarians were against going to the streets. But I think that we should use this moment where people are discussing more about politics to get our message out. So if the streets are the media vehicle now, so let's go to the streets. Let's put our message there. So that's what we are going. We are going to have another protest on, I think it's April 12. Yeah, April 12. So like 3 weeks from now. But the politics already started to move on the Congress after this last protest. So they're trying to approve a new anti-corruption law. With libertarians know that won't make anything at all because the problem is not the law, the problem is the size of the state, which in Brazil is very big. For example, Petrobras, so you have a state-owned company to manage oil.
Yeah, I heard about the scandal.
A state-owned company to manage the post office. They are all monopolies. We don't have a private competition, a real private competition with them. So people are starting to realize that it would be better if the government let them live their lives alone. And like we say, Dilma, the Works Party, was the best thing that happened to libertarianism in Brazil. They created more libertarians than Rothbard here.
What's the educational system like in Brazil?
One of the worst of the world because we have a public system which most people use, especially the poor. And the private system is very expensive, most of it, because we have like 40% of taxes over education. Mm-hmm. And the Ministry of Education controls everything. So you cannot put the lectures you want in your school. You have to put the same thing on all schools. And a lot of Marxism on the subjects all the time. So you have to fight the Marxism in the schools, and people think that capitalism is the bad guy, and that we should have more state, and the state is the answer. But it's incredible, like, we give 1-2 lectures to some people, and people change their minds, because Marxism here, we still have to fight Marxism here. We don't even have the power to fight Keynes. We're still fighting Marx in Brazil. So, but so unnatural that when people realize and get to know more about libertarianism, they really become libertarians. So it's like a small one step by day, but it's really worthwhile.
How did you become a libertarian?
Well, I was in the protests in 2013. We had some big protests, and I was one of the organizers of one of the protests. We was able to make a Congress not pass a law that would make the corruption investigation be almost impossible. So they would make the main body responsible for investigating corruption almost useless. So we went to the street. We had like 40,000 people in the streets, and the law was not passed. And afterwards, I was studying about how to reduce corruption. And I found out an article on Mises Institute Brazil about New Zealand, what New Zealand did to reduce corruption and to change the education. And I read the article, and in 1 week I was a libertarian because
Oh, yeah. One week.
it just made sense at all. So then I started to study Mises, Hayek, Rothbard, and other authors.
Huh. I know Brazilians love the internet, especially Facebook, Twitter, things like that. But does the government censor the internet in Brazil?
Not yet. Like they just passed the law that to make some censorship on the internet possible, and the net neutrality that you were discussing was approved in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally discussed here, and it was approved within this law. So they are trying, but since the Works Party government they don't have the support to do anything at all anymore. So they gave up for a while about regulating internet, but they really wanna like not only regulate the internet but the media itself.
Yeah.
And they always wanted to make it almost impossible to create new parties. They are really socialists in the original meaning of the word. So, but I think they're losing. They're losing thanks to the libertarian movement and to the people get using to more freedom.
Cool. All right, so one more question then. What's there to do in Brazil? I know there's beaches. What are your favorite things?
Wow, beaches. You asked me about my favorite things are about just beaches. My favorite things, okay, I really like to go to the beach. In São Paulo, we don't have beaches. It's difficult for a Brazilian to say beach, because he remembers beach. Anyway, in São Paulo, we don't have we are, I don't know, 100 kilometers from the sea. But I used to live in the northwest of Brazil. It's a beautiful city called Fortaleza, and they have some incredible place to go. But most libertarians here like to go to parties, pubs. We are really fun persons. We don't just study,
Yeah.
We have social life. I think here you wouldn't need to make a video about how dating works. I asked you that. I think we were transmitting, right, about the video with dating tips. I think you can comment on that now. You've made a video about dating tips for libertarians.
Yes.
Tell me more about it.
Sure, I made it for Valentine's Day in the United States. I don't know if you guys have Valentine's Day, but it's a romantic holiday. And basically giving tips to libertarians on how to date, how to meet women, how to get the women to like you. Because I get a lot of messages from libertarians. I think the typical libertarian might be an introverted, maybe a shy person who isn't used to, who isn't the life of the party, I'll say. So I gave them some tips. It was kind of silly too. I put some silly, skits in there, but I wanted to basically give real advice on, how to meet women and how to date them, and hopefully I helped.
I've laughed a lot with your video, really.
Oh.
Come on, she's giving tips about how to date. Judy, great. It was a pleasure to talk with you. I think we are over time. And I invite you to come to Brazil any day.
All right.
As you wish. You don't need a special conference for that. We can create a conference for you.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Thank you for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, great. And when I'm in US, we can talk in person.
Yeah, come to the US.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, and we keep in touch.
All right, thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye.